Tebbit, there can't be many political conferences where an employment secretary gets a standing ovation for defending a jobless total of over 3 million. Despite your fine words, the standard of oratory, do you really think you deserved it?
Well, I would have deserved it all the more if we'd been on the way down and the figures had been heading towards 2 million rather than being over 3, of course. But I think what really the interesting point about it was that I was being absolutely blunt with the conference. There were no mealy-mouthed words about it. There was no shrinking away from it. And I think it was because I was dealing in the facts and because I was asking the conference, and indeed the country, to look squarely at the issues, that the conference received it well.
Blunt with conference, perhaps not as blunt as you were last year when words of yours were interpreted as saying on your bike to the unemployed. There were no such hostages to fortune this time. Have you become a more compassionate man?
No, no changes really. And again, I go back to that expression was used in criticism of the view that the only thing for people who were unemployed to do was to riot. That was an idea which was prevalent at that time, and I was making a very different point in saying that people didn't take that view in the 30s, and I don't believe that the vast mass of people do now. And events have borne me out in that sense. But today I was talking about what we're doing to help, the training programs, the community program, the scale of the help in terms of easing the pain of unemployment, as well as what's going on in the economy underlying it, to prepare the foundation for growth and new jobs.
But do you still say what was implied on that on your bike expression, which you didn't actually use in exactly those words, but do you still say that perhaps there are jobless who don't do enough to help themselves and to find jobs?
I'm sure that in any economy, at any time, there are people who are less than eager to go to work. But as I made the point today, and I made it last year, the vast majority of people who are unemployed are actively looking for jobs. And indeed, 2.5 million people a year go from the dole queue out into jobs.
I spoke in the preparation to this programme to a number of young people. I heard a 16-year-old boy say there is no hope. What do you say to him?
Oh, I say to him that may well be what his father or his grandfather perhaps even said in the 20s and 30s. And they were wrong. The jobs did come back, and the jobs are going to come back now. And indeed, that 16-year-old lad, I hope, will get onto one of the training programs. If he's going to leave school next year, then it's quite likely that he'd qualify for the youth training scheme, which is a full year of vocational training. And that'll make him that much the more able to find a job, that much the more valuable to an employer, and immensely improve his chances.
Again and again at this conference, one has heard from various ministers and from yourself that the fight to reduce unemployment is linked to the battle to reduce inflation. Mr. Tebbit, inflation has gone down all this year and unemployment has gone up.
Yes, that's so, and I emphasised that view of the link between inflation and unemployment is not solely mine or Geoffrey Howe's or the Prime Minister's. I quoted Jim Callaghan's words.
Yes,
inflation is the mother and
the
father of unemployment. Well, I think it's got a reasonable track record when you look at the history of this country over the last 20-odd years, that each government that's come and gone has had higher average levels of inflation and higher levels of unemployment. There have been cycles in it, but it's been on a steadily rising trend.
If I may interrupt you, I'm sorry, but I mean, what I'm putting to you is that it's gone down all this year while unemployment has gone up. Doesn't that suggest that the theory is not entirely correct?
No, no, I don't think so at all. I think what it shows is, as Geoffrey Howe said, we're paying the price now, not for curing inflation today, but for failing to cure it in the past. We drove our customers away in the past. Now we've got to win them back. And you don't win them back in a day. We've had to make industry more efficient. That's often meant demanning. And I mentioned today the civil service. We've had to lose 25,000 jobs in the civil service in a single year. That has got to go on in order to build a firm base of firms which are as slim and as tight and as effective and competitive as the Germans or the Japanese.
You also went in for a little modest union bashing, almost putting the blame for some part of the employment on the shoulders of the trade union leaders. Mr. Tebbit, if all strikes ceased tomorrow, if all wage claims were frozen tomorrow, if there was sweetness and light in industry, would unemployment fall?
It would fall quicker than if we carried on with the sort of things which were going on a few years ago, when we had constant disputes in the motor industry, constant disputes in the shipyards, which were really damaging to us. And you'll recollect that I distinguished very much between the generally moderate, sensible, ordinary chap, woman at work, and some of the trades union leaders. And again, only some. Many trades union leaders are motivated by the interests of their members, but many are motivated by their own political ambitions. I think the members are beginning to see that.
When I listen to your colleague Jim Pryor or your former colleague Sir Ian Gilmore speaking at fringe meetings, they seem to have a different emphasis. Sir Ian wanted increased benefits for the unemployed. Jim Pryor spoke of one nation. There is a gap between the so-called wets and the dries, such as yourself, isn't there?
I think there's a difference of emphasis, particularly between people like Ian Gilmore and I. Ian is, I think, by nature, far more of a paternalist than I. And there are the two threads in the Tory party. There always have been between the paternalists and the libertarians. I think I belong to that liberal tradition. I think Ian belongs to the more paternal tradition. And perhaps we emphasise different things. But again, today, I emphasise the sheer scale of the programmes which we have for helping the unemployed. And I also emphasised that it's no good pushing benefits up to a level where people are better off on benefit than they are at work.
Let me put you right at the end. Let me put to you, when will it start to fall? When will unemployment come down? Isn't the most likely thing that this time next year you'll be talking about 4 million unemployed?
I don't think I should break the precedent set by all my predecessors who refused to forecast levels of unemployment in advance. What I can say is that if we really become competitive, we can get the figures down quicker. If we fool around with strikes, we won't.